Yeah, we will now walk you through a journey of how to apply optimization. So Sasha spoke about it, Duke spoke about it, Kostya also mentioned it now. Gurobi works and functions most of the time not as a standalone technology, right? We need partners who can help us, who can help our customers to apply to the fullest and to embrace also the power of that piece of technology. Before Dave will walk you through that journey, I want to ask you one question here. Who's working with a Gurobi partner today? Can you raise your hand? That's not too many. So a bunch of smart people already using Gurobi to the fullest, but not all of our customers have either the skills or the capacity, and that's where they need partners. We have 4 sponsoring partners here. They helped us with this event as well. Outside, make sure to speak to them. They have their booths there. Also, if you search for a partner, if you won't find it today, there's also the partner locator on our website. Make sure to check it out. Always you can reach out to us if you have certain requirements of whom you're searching for. And also what you heard today from Anton from McKinsey already, how a management consulting company is working with our piece of technology, and also how solution companies, so software companies, are working together with Gurobi as the embedded part, together with management consulting companies, but also obviously our service partners like Decision Lab, for example. And those are the benefits. This is why the partners are working with us. We set up certain programs, we set up certain plans of how we can work together closer, how we can bring the value of our joint collaboration to our customers. And we define certain plans, certain activities and action items. Yeah, and that's how we basically work together. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'm around the full 2 days, but else you can have a look on our website. And now I would like to hand it over to Dave. Here you go.
Cool, thank you. Thanks, everybody. So a couple of questions, like why am I here? So we are the future. I think we can all accept that, can't we? Once upon a time, optimization was the group of people who were kept in the cupboard, out of the way, even when we had moments of inspiration and transformational impact on a business. Optimization wasn't given front and center value added to the business that it truly deserved. Now, as we now know, that is not the case anymore. Optimization, decision intelligence, as we're talking about here, is very much the front and future of many organizational strategies. And to enable us to achieve in that world or to succeed, as we know we can, as we know this world is full of problems, as we heard earlier on, we know that we make an inspirational difference. We need methodologies and strategies and approaches in order to take what we know we can do and bring that to the masses. Yeah, how do we do that? So my role within today is to follow on from what we've heard earlier, where we were talked through at a high level what decision intelligence looks like and how it makes an impact, and give you a demonstration of what that looks like on a typical project. So there is a couple of bad news bits around this, unfortunately. Yeah, for those of you who are desperate to get to the case studies and the maths bit tomorrow, there is absolutely no maths in this presentation, so I apologize up front. You'll just have to wait for lunch and then get stuck into those case studies to see how everybody else is using it later. Also, the bad news is I'm the only thing stopping lunch happening. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm definitely more than 18 minutes. I apologize already that I'm offending the chief exec, that my slide is not 18 minutes. We can blame that on the subject matter expert who told me I had to speak for 40 minutes. So we've got a set of slides. I'll hopefully take you on a journey. It's a methodology we use as an organization. It's adapted some from frameworks that we've seen out there. Hopefully you find it engaging. I'm pretty certain you'll take something from this session. Questions at the end, please. Or we've got a stand out there as well, and please feel free to come and talk to us at any point. So, what are we as an organization? So we're very practical. We are a technical consultancy. We are stacked full of PhDs, optimization specialists, data scientists, reinforcement learning engineers, software engineers, digital twin experts, simulation people. We are very technical about what we do, but we focus very much on the outcome that we're trying to achieve. We're actually a few more than the people you see here. We're, even pre-COVID, we didn't really have a central base or central office. It's very hard for us to get all 22 of the company together in a single place. So this was the closest we got, which was a social pre-Christmas. Mainly UK-based, but we do have some US-based customers and we do have some European ones as well. And what we've seen is this concept of decision intelligence is enabling us much better to answer the question that typically comes from a chief exec when you're talking to them and they say, well, can't ChatGPT solve that for me? And I think there is a real expectation that with the popularity of ChatGPT and what people are able to see that it can do, is that every answer, every business problem can be answered through that. So a production engineer should be able to say, well, what will happen if I move a customer order from tomorrow to today? And we can see the impact on that. And the answer to that is a little bit of ChatGPT. We can all imagine how that prompt-based approach could work. We could all imagine how they might be able to communicate a message back to a user. But there's a whole host of optimization and operational research and proper maths that needs to go into supporting that. And that's where our decision intelligence framework comes in. This is where we start with all customer conversations. Even the people who think they know optimization, even the more technical side of the customer base, the success of an organization is nothing but the sum of all of its decisions. Yeah? Even in the most highly automated, process-automated organizations, there's still a lot of humans making a lot of very important decisions, probably with partial information, probably without really considering what happens next in the process, and probably with their own independent set of KPIs that they're trying to maximize personally so that they get their bonus at the end of the year. And we try and use this methodology to break down some of that siloed approaches to decision making, showing that optimization at an organizational level can deliver, it can address some of that idea that, like, look, you've done a lot of work on adopting new OE. You bought the latest technology that can do super duper production. But have you ever thought about those decisions? Or have you just outsourced that to your ERP software and just let it do what it thinks is best? Yeah? Now is the time to to come back into those decisions that are happening within your organization. Who is making them? How are they making them? And what influence are they having? We are not a new organization. So 2007 was when we were formed, and we were very much kind of digital twin based at that point in time, very simulation based, building a lot of early digital twins for people like Rolls-Royce and Volvo. Optimization came in around 2011 as an organization because we felt that, okay, it's really nice to actually see what's going to happen, but there is a better way to make a decision than what we're doing within this digital twin context, and that's where we got involved with optimization. And the partnership with Gurobi came a little bit later than that, but we've been working with Gurobi for about 5 years now. Data science arrived, so of course we had to expand and create a machine learning team, didn't we? You know, it suddenly became an important component of how decisions are going to be made. And for us, that was around about 2015. In 2019, we had a pivot towards more R&D-based work. So at that point in time, we felt that the world of decision-making was getting really exciting. There's lots of emerging research in this space, lots of stuff that's happening within optimization, reinforcement learning, simulation is moving in certain directions. The omniverse is now a thing, those sorts of stuff. How can we pull these technologies together to make a better decision-making framework? And we spent a couple of years doing that, to be fair, and what we're coming back to now is this idea of decision intelligence. At the heart of everything throughout our organizational history has been the idea that we want organizations to make a better decision. Yeah? Decision intelligence for us is that practical decision, is that practical technique. It is very mathematical when you get down to it, but it's a blend between those mathematical sciences and the way in which you put this into the hands of the user. We make it very clear to our customers that we're not coming in with just another technology that is designing to duplicate what they're already getting within their ERPs or their sales order processing softwares or their procurement softwares. We can be a layer that sits above everything that they've got within their organization currently and provides that overall governance and optimization. Now, within that, there may also be the odd occasion where somebody hasn't solved their transportation problem particularly well. And then there might be a point solution that needs to be built. But we believe that there is lots of different ways in which decision intelligence at an organizational level interacts and integrates with what an organization is doing well currently, and we can build some new layers within that. It's definitely not about AI making the decision. Yeah? And we've got a slide on it later, but we, as an organization, focus very much on something called human autonomy teaming. Yeah, so how can you get the best out of a human and the best out of AI, which also includes optimization in our world, to make that ultimate decision, that best possible decision. What we look like is an organization. So we have an enabling toolkits team. So for organizations that are pretty mature, perhaps Gurobi users already, have a data science team that knows what they're doing, we can be their technology partner to provide the training, the onboarding, the support, some of the design work, the consultancy around that. Okay. Outside of that, we've got our technology and innovation team. Now, they're very lucky people. They get to play with all the emerging tech. They get to play with the innovations that the tech providers are coming out with. So they're interested in the nonlinear optimization stuff that Gurobi have just pushed out to market. They get to play with what's coming out of Google Labs, and they spend a lot of time in that kind of emerging hype cycle phase, looking at new tech and trying to find ways in which they know it will help our current customers. So how can it provide added value, or can it open up a new set of problems to being solved through mathematical approaches? Our industrial solutions team is a bit more practical. They get their hands dirty. They have to work with the customer in order to get the return on investment that we promised during the kind of solutions engineering process. They are building things, optimization models, pieces of software, data pipelines that enable these decisions to be made on a daily basis. And then we have a platform team. So we do have our own composable platform that allows bits of solutions to be hung together to make that industrial solutions team work easier, so that we can go in with something that's a little bit off the shelf, not quite really, a little bit emerging if we're honest, but trying to get that industrial solutions team in there really, really quickly to make a difference. Now, we know that we are the future. Yeah, we are the enlightened ones who have attended this event because we know that we do not like the state of current decision making. And that is backed up by lots of different research, by lots of different organizations. We know that the world, the inspirational thought we had first thing this morning, is suboptimal, and we have got our part to play in transforming that. Now, I agree, sometimes I'm just helping a cardboard box manufacturer, but there are times at which I'm supporting organizations with higher societal impact projects, water, asset investment planning, and a wide variety of other things. So we know that we don't like decision making as it is today, and we have a part to play, a significant part to play in how we can make this world a better place, make this world more optimal. So a bit of an introduction into our framework, then I will go through reasonably quickly a case study that we've got, just half a dozen slides max, on how we apply this. So at the very heart of what we've got is the outcome. So we're always going to start on that outcome and make sure we work closely with the senior stakeholders to understand the business impact that has. Now, for us as an organization, that is typically working with the C-suite style people, the people who know what they're trying to achieve at a business outcome level. We obviously might start with a head of engineering or somebody who's got that tangible optimization problem, but we want to relate what they're trying to achieve back to how that's going to deliver that overall business outcome, that overall business objective. The next bit of our circle is the decision flow bit, where we've got these words: capture, interpret, model, resolve, act. Now, that is what we typically know that we do on an everyday basis. Yeah? We have to understand the data. We have to collect it. We have to be able to interpret it or summarize it in a way in which it's useful for our model. And then we've got a model. Typically, it's going to be an optimization model. It could be a combination of different approaches, but we've got to have some way that we're going to build out that solution. The resolve bit is the course of action. Yeah, so how do we execute that course of action? Do we just stop at giving a report with a recommendation, or are we going straight down to the machine to tell it what to do in that moment? And that's the act bit. And the resolve bit is making that optimal decision. So that's where you get the blend and understanding what the humans are doing within this. And then if we go out of that circle, we get into all the stuff that we're possibly, and certainly as a company, Decision Lab, wasn't great at thinking about 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, we hadn't really got our heads around this. So how do we deal with that learning and feedback piece? How do we make sure that our optimal is optimal? And how do we report KPIs? Yeah, how do we take the customer on the journey of knowing when maybe our decision could have been better and why could it have been better? So there's a huge learning element that we build into each project, even outside of the first 6 months, to say that we constantly want to be checking what is changing in your environment, what are the new factors that we might not have included in our model, and how can we address that, how can we bring that in? We've got this concept of the human-machine teaming piece, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We are very passionate about the idea that decisions are best when the two are combined into a single problem. You have to be very good at understanding how the human is going to interpret the outcome of whatever decision intelligence solution you put out there, because they're going to, ultimately, they're either going to avoid it or they're not going to follow your recommendation. Yeah? So the human autonomy teaming piece is very core and central to what we do. And then the final layer is the context. That idea of how is the decision made in the context of the overall organization, what is the kind of decision network piece, where does the decision go next after you've made that action. What this should lead to, yeah, particularly that bit of the core bit where we do the interpret, the explore, the capture, the act, and the resolve, is that we're aiming to leave the customer with a set of highly optimized decisions. Yeah, we've got this concept where they're likely to be more automated than they were previously. That's like a natural consequence of the type of stuff that we're delivering to an organization. But we could be playing around in that space of augmented, and you heard that in the previous previous talk as well. Highly future fit decisions. So we want a decision where the user is going to be able to go on the journey in the future around the outcome. And then this idea of composability. So lots of decisions that are locked in together, where you've got optimization, decision intelligence, having an oversight across the business, and what is it doing? So not a siloed solution. How do we make that at an organizational level? And then we've got some maths. So there is a little bit of maths, but it's only words. Yeah. So the maths that this encompasses, obviously, Gurobi and optimization are very much at the part of this. They've got a massive part to play. But as we've seen in lots of the earlier slides, it's currently probably only part of the solution. So if we're going to be taking in a forecast of demand, we want to use that to optimize our production plan. That forecast is likely going to be coming from a machine learning model, some sort of time series approach, most likely. So we're going to have a methodology and approach that considers that and considers the accuracy of the forecast and the impact that will have on our optimization. So these mathematical techniques need to work in tandem and symbiotically with each other, and the consequence of inaccuracy in one area needs to be, the other area of the decision-making cycle needs to be aware of that. And finally, in terms of the methodology, we have this big take on don't forget the humans. Yeah? So it's a team. Yeah? It has to be a team. Executive decision-makings, I mean, I think I have seen some research now that there are a number of Japanese companies that have a board bot that's based on an optimization approach, and it has voting rights. Yeah, so it's there, but that exec is still that's still only part of a human-led decision-making process. So we know we can have impact, but we can only have the optimal impact if we get that human autonomy teaming piece right. So there are AI-led approaches that can support this. Yeah, we do talk about things like causal inference when we're working with customers. We do talk things about decision arbitration. So what happens when decisions are in conflict with each other? How do we make you aware of those conflicts between automated decisions? How do we negotiate a solution? Or how does the AI come up with a final course of action? And we spend quite a lot of time here kind of mapping out the dimensions of a decision. So this is just a really simple example, just with 3 dimensions based on risk, complexity, and timing. But you could imagine a fourth would easily be data quality, which is typically included in there. You could have 5, 6, 7, 8. And we look at each decision and try and map them onto there so we understand and agree where should be the correct balance between automation, augmentation, and decision support. Yeah? And the key to getting this right is actually, for every decision, there's a time component to that. So here we've got at the bottom here, is your decision being made in seconds, minutes, hours, or days? Well, even in a production planning environment, you can start off at the beginning of the day with a complex production planning problem. You might have an hour to make it. And here you might want to do some near optimals. Yeah, some sort of Pareto curve analysis of what the results show, to look at the scenarios and explore that. As time is ticking down, and maybe there's the human, you're kind of, I don't really know. What happens if we need to get this order out? Or what happens if I think this order is going to come in today? How could that play out? So here you're playing around with scenarios, you're using digital twin context. You're still optimizing, but you might get to a point where this ticks over and goes, no, sorry, you're going to have to go with what I think is the optimal. So this approach to decision automation, decision or support and augmentation in the middle is actually dynamic based on the time that you have left to make your decision with your organization. And we particularly use this extensively in like some of our military projects. So what does that actually look like when you get in front of a client? So hopefully this video plays. Did I press a clicker? There we go. So the point of putting the video up, this is a customer that we've been working with recently, is that this customer is not backwards in any way, shape or form. Yeah, there's a highly automated process. They've invested heavily in their site. They know exactly how to run their machines. Yeah, they put some decent amount of money in there. There's conveyors everywhere. The humans are there to essentially load the machines and make all the critical decisions. And that is the critical bit. As an organization, very technology orientated, very CapEx investment, ready, prepared to make in order to achieve optimality within their business, but focused on the tech. Maybe not focused on all the other bits around that. So when you start to have a look at what it's like to work in that business on a daily basis, you see all the human-led decisions having a knock-on consequence without consideration of what's going off. And that is where decision intelligence has its part to play within an organization such as this. Very brief overview of the timeline of this project. Yeah. So it starts with my partner telling me that I have to go to a Birmingham Chamber of Commerce annual awards dinner. And I literally sit in my chair and go, you are having a laugh, aren't you? That's going to be the most boring evening I could possibly ever imagine. Anybody been to a UK Chamber of Commerce event before? No? It is not fun. It's like the worst message you can ever get off your partner. But she's got to go because she's sales director at a company. So she's got to go and do the networking. And I'm like, right, how much are you going to pay me to come along? Anyway, I turn up. I happen to be sitting at the same table as the MD of the Schumacher Group, UK MD of the Schumacher Group. We get talking. The conversation typically goes, I don't need AI in my business. It can't do anything for me. I'm fully automated already. And I'm obviously not quite so convinced by that argument. And we get into a decent discussion about how AI could be used within an organization such as his. That's event one. Event two, we exchange business cards. I follow up. I've done a crap job. He doesn't respond. He blanks me. Yeah. Next social event happens that I get dragged onto by my partner. In fact, this one is mine. So we're a corporate, St. Basil's is a charity. We're their kind of technology partner, AI partner. We do lots of pro bono work for them. I drag her along to this event. I happen to be back on the same table as the MD from Schumacher. So this is great. So now I've got a second opportunity. He has actually reflected a little bit in the month in between and done a little bit of research and found a little bit out, and he's looked at some grant funding opportunities that are coming up. And he's like, actually, we could have a conversation on this. I would be interested to see what is happening, what could happen within my business. So my second sales pitch was way better than my first. This time we exchanged cards again, just in case he'd lost it, and that's why he hadn't followed up with me. And he did reply when I put in that email, We set up a bit of a brainstorming session, so just a show and tell, essentially. I took some past projects, I took some demos that we've done for previous companies. He showed me around his organization. We then got in a room with his senior leaders and goes, right, okay, so what are the things that don't work from a decision-making perspective? And for them, these workshops can be a little bit awkward because very rarely do people focus on the human decision-making aspect. They're very versed in what the process is and what the data is and what the ERP is telling them to do. They very rarely lift it up and try and think about what that human decision-making is. But very successful. We got there. We've done a discovery. The outcomes of some of that discovery of what I will show now. And again, we're really focused on, at the end of a discovery, we always make sure our clients pay for that discovery exercise, but we have to come back with a fully costed value case for it. So we use value case because it gives us a little bit of wiggle room, because as we all know what it's like as consultants, not always that easy to get the numbers out of a business, mainly because they don't know it themselves, yeah? So it's always a little bit tricky, but we call it a value case. We try and quantify it as best we possibly can. The process looks a little bit like this. So we're going to start with some decision mapping. We're then going to try and understand the context for where those decisions are being made and maybe group them into some series of decisions that are interlinked. So understand where a siloed decision is actually part of an overall network. We're going to have a look at the environment that those decisions are in. So what if the data is available? How is that data amenable to anything that we might want to propose in terms of decision intelligence? What are the opportunities for re-engineering that? So how, if we would start from scratch, would we do it again? Trying to harness the power of decision intelligence. And then ultimately, we're just getting into the implementation phase with this customer as we speak. I did worry about this when I put this slide in. This has not come across very well, has it? Yeah, you can't really see what's going off. This looks like a process flow, doesn't it? Yeah, it's not. It's a decision network map. It's really critical. It's the first thing that we do. Everybody thinks we're building a process map, but we have to do a bit of articulation to kind of go, no, what we're doing here is mapping every point we see a decision, be it automated or human, and trying to see how the data or the information or the outcomes of that decision are flowing into the next stage. Yeah, so it's subtly different, but actually impact-wise very different, because you get a whole different view of their business when you forget the process and look at the decision. Yeah. Feel free to follow that thing. What's that thing called? It's gone out of my head. Top right corner. QR code, that's the thing. Who would have thought I run a tech company? Anyway, follow the QR code and you can have a look at it in reality. We put some of these up previously, didn't we? And this is as simple as it looks. There's a workshop behind each one of these. This one is focusing on the corrugator. So the way that their plant works is that they start off with just sheets of paper, big rolls of paper, as you saw in the video. They turn that into semi-finished goods. So before you get into the cardboard making, the box making bit, which is the outcome of their business, they have a semi-finished goods area, which is essentially cardboard at various grades of various sizes. That needs to be in place, and a corrugator does that. So it's the very first bit of the process. So what's the decision risk around the planning for that? So a person does the planning for this on a weekly basis and then adapts it on a daily basis. What is the decision risk? Well, if you get it wrong, it's semi-finished goods. Nothing's going to go out of your factory if you haven't got the right in there. So you've got a high-risk decision here. So you're already thinking, well, I wouldn't necessarily want to fully automate this. Yeah, I would perhaps want to give the operator an ability to influence, interact, understand exactly what's happening within this plan. Decision complexity, reasonably low. It's a bit structured. They do 2-week cycles of planning. They generally know what they've got to get out. It doesn't change that much until somebody from the sales teams comes in and shouts really loudly and says, we've got to get this order out today, and that's where it can have a bit of an impact. But that mainly affects the following machine, so post semi-finished goods. These guys have got quite an easy role, to be honest. And decision timing, they're typically making this in minutes. Yeah, it's a relatively straightforward decision. And from that, we can come up with a recommendation for what we might do. Yeah, very verbose at this point. We do a little bit of user-centered design around this, so we come up with some screenshots of what this could look like. But we come up with a recommendation, generally going to be using those keywords that we really like to see. Optimizations in there. You can see that we're recommending some simulation to allow the user to explore what would happen if they can't get the paper that they want today. What does that look like in 2 weeks' time? What happens if they prioritize for a different target objective? When it gets to the next step of the machine, there's another decision made. This time they're trying to plan for what goes on their mix of, I think they have something like 10 different machines. They can all do a bit the same and a bit different. So it's a reasonably complicated process. They run at different speeds. Some of them only do part of the process so that it needs to go to another set of machines. So you've got a bit of a jigsaw puzzle here to get this together right. So here you've got a high-risk decision again, because if you get this wrong, you're not getting anything out the door or you're running at suboptimal. Your complexity is really high here because you're playing that game. Well, if I put it on B, then B's out of action for the next 4 hours, but really that job needs to go on B. So if I move that one off B, I'll put it on A, but then what is the consequence of going on A? So these are all the typical things that we as optimization specialists love, isn't it? Oh yeah, great, we can solve this one. But we're trying to do this from a decision intelligence perspective. So we're going to try and think this thing through. And again, the decision timing is in a matter of minutes. What could we do for this one? So what are our recommendations? Yeah, and we can, again, make a set of recommendations around this one. It differs ever so slightly to the previous one because there's a high level of interconnectedness here. So the decisions that they make here influence what happens in transportation. Yeah, it influences what else can't go out of the door that day. So there's a difference between the two and the approaches that we therefore recommend. And then something that is bread and butter for us, transport optimization. Yeah? It's the last leg of the journey. It's the bit that many businesses do forget about, particularly SMEs. I think Schumacher UK turns over around about 25 million. So not like outside of the SME bracket as we would class them. Still a big business, but still not in the billions. This is being done by, I don't know, Vanessa on the back of a fag packet at the beginning of each shift. It's currently very badly planned. So this is an easy one for us to go in and say we can do something there. But remember, we're not trying to do siloed decision making. But we know that the decision risk is relatively low. We know that we can optimize a route using Google data to get live traffic information so that we know it's optimal. We know we can do that. We've all done that before. It's well structured. You've completed your goods now, and you've got a date at which you've got to get it to a customer. It's known. Yeah, we've got our constraints there. We've got our availability. And the timing, again, you have got stuff coming off on a minute-by-minute basis off the production line. You have got a fleet of 50 vehicles to get stuff out on. You do regularly replan those routes, so you'll be making that in minutes. But the decision around this could be a little bit more automated. And you can see for this, we're going more down the automation route than we have done in previous recommendations. So we're not talking about concepts such as digital twin here. We're talking about pure optimization and then straight out to the vehicles to say this is what you will, straight out to the warehouse team to say this is what you load onto this vehicle. And then the value case. So there's a lot of work that goes into these exercises. This is just a very short snapshot. But ultimately, after we go through this exercise, we do a lot of mapping of the decisions. We're going to come up with the value case. Now, we try and talk to our customers about two aspects of value. Your short-term tactical, and we know it needs to pay for itself. Yeah, it can't just be a research project, most likely. So we've got to come up with how is that going to impact your business in the short term. Yeah, and we're typically looking for paybacks within 12 months. That's what we want to hit as a business. But we also want to get them to talk about the long-term strategic. We're not just giving ourselves a get out when we can't make the tactical value case work. We do want to engage them in a long-term relationship around decision intelligence. So they realize this is not just, I will buy a shiny new toy from Dave. Dave will jump on his horse and run away and never see me again. We want to show that this is something that is going to make their make a transformational difference to their business in the long term as they keep going around that cycle of what are the decisions that I can optimize. And then we try and take those decisions and turn it into an equation. Now, I know it doesn't look like an equation that we all like to see, but we try and link everything back to what this means for the stakeholders of their business. Now, there is a costed version of this that I can't show, unfortunately, but we try and just go around everything and go, okay, what are the enablers to this? What is this project going to enable your business to do differently? Some of those should be costable. They should deliver a return to the organization. So we should be able to put numbers against everything that we see there. That then has an impact on your stakeholders. Yeah, so how are we actually going to impact the stakeholders of your business? And as long as they map back to the stakeholders' priorities and concerns, which we did right at the beginning of the project, when we focused on what was the business outcome they wanted to achieve, we've got an equation that should be in balance. Yeah? It should feed back quite nicely to each other and make a very convincing case for why decision intelligence is the answer to this problem and not ChatGPT. Okay? So, I'm actually not going to talk about solution delivery. It's a really simple slide I'm going to put up, but just so you know what it ends up looking like. Okay, we have got our human autonomy teaming layer at the top. Yeah, so the solution that we're building for Schumacher has a digital twin, yeah, based on simulation. It does a lot of explainable AI concepts within that. So every time a decision is optimized, okay, the digital twin is doing that. What is the consequence of this decision? The digital twin is typically giving the user the ability to go, I don't like that computer. I really don't like that plaid. That doesn't look good. I'm going to take that out and I'm going to drop in something else. And it's allowing that user to play and learn in the space, take their ideas and try and outperform the computer. We imagine that they will probably use that functionality less and less over time, but it is really important for the first 3 to 6 months that they've got the ability to have a little play and see if they can outperform the computer. And we do know that there's a lot of human judgment that might come into this. And there's a lot of run up to Christmas where somebody goes, we accidentally printed the wrong box. We need to get this out today. What is the consequence if we scrap the plan and put this in there? And that's all coming out of our human autonomy teaming layer. All of it automatically orchestrating everything that's going off in the background. What we aren't doing is touching anything to do with their existing tools. Yeah, we're using their existing ERP system. We're taking out its planning module. Yeah, so we're stopping it from doing the planning. That's the only bit that we're doing. We're using their existing data. Clearly, we're transforming it. There's a pipeline going in there. But what we're doing is pulling out the information at the appropriate time that allows us to do both the corrugator and the finished goods machine optimization. That's a combination of Gurobi mixed into linear programming and reinforcement learning. So that's coming in for the moment that a machine breaks down, let's say. Yeah. So what happens when that machine breaks down? We don't want to re-optimize. We haven't got time to re-optimize. There's an automatic decision that goes, right, these next 10 orders, until we can get a new optimal plan, are going to be spread across these machines. So that's where we're using reinforcement learning in this case. And what we're trying to do is maximize the overall outcome of the factory, balancing the capacity of the WIP area. So the key business constraint they've got is that when they were designing their factory, they only built a WIP area for semi-finished goods that's kind of double the size of this lectern area here. So they've got a real big constraint there. So it is a little bit tricky. And then again, for the transportation optimization, we know that's just pure optimization. That can go in. So this is what their existing process will look like. This is nobody really likes the term smart factory, do they? But we have to put it in the way in which the C-suite can go to a conference and say, I've got a smart factory now. It uses decision intelligence. So we've got their smart factory, or this is what we're building as their smart factory. And we've got a really good value case for this. Yeah, we have got within year return on investment for what they're going to put into this. And then obviously, all those soft factors, what happens when they put the next machine in, which they're planning to do in March, it feels like this technology will just take away all of that business planning complexity that they were imagining they would have. Okay, so, final slide. I have got a couple of minutes. There is something really tricky about decision intelligence. It doesn't always land well across every bit of the business. Yeah, and I think we all know this. We've all tried to do an optimization project and we can't get the funding, or the customer can't get the funding that they need for this project. They can't make the value case. You lift up what we do as optimization specialists and put it in the context of decision intelligence and try and take it across, remove siloed decision making. You're just making your problem worse. Yeah. Now that does require, and it comes back to what we said at the beginning, we do need a really good way to methodology and approach to communicating what we do as optimization specialists. Because on this project, this is where we faced issues. So that the finance guys were obviously, come on, are you telling me you can deliver return on investment in 12 months? I've never had a project that delivered return on investment in 12 months. Where's your evidence for that? That's okay, we're okay with that. We're techie geek guys who can build sim models. We can actually show that reasonably quickly. So we can remove some of that from a blocker. Day-to-day users, I'm sure we all have this. We are not out there I'm sure none of us are out there to directly take away a person's job. We're there to allow them to focus on what they do well and to take the simple bit of their job that they're not great at, the bit that can be done by a computer, to take that away, which frees up the incredible brain power of a human to focus on what they do well. Yeah? And that is the key message that we spend a lot of time getting across. This tool is not going to take you out of the business. This tool is just going to give you the opportunity to focus on what you enjoy doing and what you're really good at. Let the computer do what it's good at. IT was a big blocker on this project. We already have an ERP system. Why do we need something else to do our planning? So that took a series of rounds of briefing and investigation. A couple of their team had even been on OR Masters modules, so they understood what we were trying to pitch here. But it was still a big barrier to getting this project over the line. Why is this different to what we already have within our ERP systems? Or if we just made them talk to each other better, wouldn't we get the same outcome? So there's a series of blockers raised by IT on this one. And then the production director, senior production planner, it will never work. This factory only works because of the humans and their expertise, and they've worked here for 20 years. You're telling me that a computer can outperform my best planner? Yeah, that is, again, I'm sure we've all had that sort of response, particularly when you use the word AI. Yeah, we kind of cache that within, well, it's optimization, it's got a bit of AI, it does lots of things, but we do have that, this is a human-led system. We have lots of changes. We don't know what vehicles are going to be available that day. It might rain, the M6 might close. We might have a rush order through. Amazon is one of their customers, so they go, well, Amazon just drop orders with us in a minute and we have to complete them that day. How is a computer going to be able to account for all that variability? And again, you're overcoming that by just good use of demonstrations, tools, examples, a bit of sim modeling to prove that we can do this on a simple data set, a bit of simple explanation and simple optimization work that shows that this can work. And to be honest, all we're trying to do here, all our business case is premised on, is just being as good as their best planner. Now, we think we can massively outperform what their best planner does, but we premised our business case on as long as we can be as good as what your best guy does, we've got a business case here that delivers return on investment. Because you know what? That best business planner, that best production planner isn't at his best every single day, and he's only one in a team of 4. So what are the other 3 doing? Yeah. So when that level of resistance, we faced a number of times, to be fair. Typically, it's like, well, let's just get to the best that you can. Let's premise our business case on that. We're very confident we can. We have use cases where we massively outperform.